This is a post-editing note. We unfortunately had some difficulties at the start of the stream. The live audio broadcast was working fine. We had gone through some mic checks. This was during the Aegis Nautilus event announcement, and so we were talking about the information as it was coming through prior for about 20 to 30 minutes. We kicked off the podcast. It was very uneventful, and it's only been through post-editing process that I have unfortunately found out that the last 10 to 15 minutes of the podcast somehow did not make it into the final rendering. So this is just a pre-note that the end of the podcast will end abruptly, but it is getting to our final topics. But I hope you enjoy the podcast. I do strive to produce better content in the future. I ask you to be patient with me as I'm getting my feet wet in the content creator world that is producing to the Star Citizen community. Welcome to the Badlands Nation Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Titan. Today, we have our guest, SeerThe6th, and co-host, AlphaKilo5. Welcome, fellas.
How's it going?
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Thanks for showing up today. Today we are broadcasting the Aegis event announcement for the Aegis Nautilus mine layer and Sentry drone ship. Talking points today was the Nautilus reveal itself. That is it a true drone boat? The multi-role use of the ship and the future info coming. What did they say? It was on tomorrow. Concierge on August 25th will have the ability to play the minigame. And then the regular populace is going to go on Monday?
Yes.
Cool. Last time we were here, I made sure both of you guys got a semi-formal introduction. Your prior servicemen, if you could give just kind of a summary one over again, just your capacity in the military. Seer, if you want to go first, and then Alpha, if you want to follow up on him.
All right. So, I was in the Marine Corps. I was an avionics technician for the MV-22, and I was a expediter for my squadron, moving parts around. And I got out of the military a year ago, and now I work for Boeing on its brand new tanker for the Air Force, the KC-46 Pegasus, as a, let's see, the official title is an RF technician, but I'm a mission tech, so I work with IFF and all the classified stuff. And yeah, that's what I do now.
Nice. And Alpha?
Yeah, sure thing. Mine's a little varied, roundabout way of getting there. I originally started at the Merchant Marine Academy, and so I did a couple years there, including a year out at sea. So that gives me a little bit of credibility when I speak about, sailing on merchant vessels, auxiliary ships, blue water navy. From there, I withdrew, and then I enlisted straight to the Air Force. I did 6 years there as security forces. It's very similar to military police, and multiple deployments under there. And then from there, I rolled right into the Guard, where I currently am now, and I'm part of the actual Space Control Squadron. So that's a little bit about my military background. I feel like as we play more and more and do more days, I feel more of my naval background comes into play than my Air Force.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And your input on both your behalfs is very welcomed. Thank y'all for being here. I've come across both of you pretty organically in the verse and kind of developed individual relationships, and you both have kind of started working together on these, and so your input's very appreciated. We use it for both community content for our small community here, and also we're trying to branch out and share it with the Star Citizen community. Today we also have Cato, who's with the Nation, and Viva. Viva's providing some video coverage today. We're trying to produce a little bit more content than just bare bones, so both of them are putting in some work today. We appreciate y'all being here. They are available in the Nation Radio chat text channel. I guess just to kick it off, guys, the first question that I had whenever I started seeing that it could deploy and withdraw the sentries and the mines, I mean, is this going to be our first true to form combat drone ship?
I'll take a stab at it and say yes and no. I mean, indirect combat, yes, because all the I should say the drones are deploying the mines, and then you have the tiny little sentry drones. So, I mean, I guess you could say it's direct combat, sort of. I'm just excited because it's like, I feel like it's a true maritime vessel. and the mines were a surprise to me, but I kind of had a feeling it was going to be an Aegis cruiser, so or Corvette, I should say. So I mean, I'm kind of pleased that it was what I thought it was going to be. So I thought that was pretty cool.
What do you think, Alpha?
Well, I was sitting there, luckily enough, with y'all when we heard the drop, and we're all speculating. And once it dropped, you know, our ideas ran wild like it always does. But once we saw what it was, my immediate thought immediately jumped to, I know we said it was a Corvette class, but it makes me think of a Coast Guard cutter.
Yep.
Not the real longboats, not the ones that actually have the decks located in the aft that can actually service aircraft, that would be with a hangar, but actually more of these smaller cutters. They're called Sentinel classes. And what they are is it's almost like a militarized yard patrol boat. So it's small, has a decent sized crew. It's heavily armed, which is really important, and more importantly, armored. You'll see the prow be built up, and just similar to this that they just released, you look at it, she actually looks like she's got some armor to her. But more importantly, is the workstation is located aft. It can actually launch and recover, be it surface vessels, drone surface vessels, or also buoys. So you take that and apply it to this universe, and it kind of fits pretty well. And I think that's going to lead into the role. And I mentioned to y'all earlier, I feel we're going to see a lot of this with NPCs. This is going to be more of the advocacy or more of the not full military, but more of the patrol to make sure that the civilian population isn't going too ham on each other. And I think mines are a great force multiplier. When there's not enough crew members, having a ship like this will really kind of help expand the ability for the government to patrol these sectors.
Interesting. So you had linked in the radio chat earlier. We were posting information. Seer was feeding us information he was getting from his sources, and we were all kind of chiming in. But you mentioned this Avenger class MCM minesweeper. With it, I mean, we don't know for sure the capacity if the ship is going to both search and deploy mines, but I mean, it's not beyond the fact of, right?
Yeah, I feel owing to that. So one of the most important things about mine sweeping and mine laying, if you go back, and again, I'll speak to the real world. When you speak to a current naval thing, a lot of interesting things about minesweeper people don't know is the ship is wooden. It's got a mostly wooden hull. And the reason being is it actually is less prone to detonate older magnetic mines. So if you think about it, it's also pretty important. If you actually have a surface vessel that's laying mines as well, that would be a little bit less likely to detonate its own ordnance. And so I feel like, especially within the realm of it being so unique within the mine operation, I feel like it would be a great idea for it to be a minesweeper and mine layer. But you're right, I'm not sure we have confirmation on that. But if it does have mine sweeping capability, that just opens up a wide array of what this vessel can do.
Yeah, I think Seer posted a picture. I know I saw it. I don't remember where it's posted at. I think it's in our Star Citizen channel. But it shows it. It's not like just a dispenser only. It does show an arm that was picking up a sentry, or it was picking up a mine. I can't remember which one it was. I'm going through the images now. Yeah, it's just this like articulating arm under the belly of the ship that it's picking it up. Assuming it's not deploying it, it looks like it's retrieving rather than placing.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So yeah, I wouldn't say live feed, but I got really high refresh rate updates during the actual event from somebody from Facebook. And excuse me, this ship really hits the ball home with like maintenance wise. I feel like out of all the Corvettes we have, this one kind of does a combat logistics role. So that's why I'm really excited for this right now.
Yeah, same. We had talked in the previous podcast. Both of you guys had lended towards the idea of something getting near a capital class, and for it to aid in, I mean, essentially maritime. But we kind of went in more detail of it being a, what did y'all say? The three beans or the three B's?
Beans,
Bullets, and
band-aids.
bandages.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, this is kind of more. This reminds me of almost kind of like a shipping lane, if you will. Like it's like Alpha had said earlier, is that it seems like this is something that advocacy would use heavily. I mean, whether it be to deny an area or to maintain an area.
Yep.
And especially, I know we sneak peeked about this earlier, and you know me, I do love my angry penguins. And you look at this, and there's already been talk about how EMP will function with these mines and weapon platforms. So if you think about it, it's also a great way to counter this vessel as well as what the advocacy already uses with the not necessarily with the stalker, but also you look at the warlock. It's going to bring in the advantage of using craft like that, and so that's also kind of an interesting perspective on how that'll operate with these mines as well.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, the angry penguin reference that we use here is the warlock, the Avenger warlock. We're currently in debates on what we're going to use for as a escort ship or for the Idris. So, angry penguin squadron for the win.
That's hilarious. So one thing that I did get from the podcast is let's talk about the what kind of weapons it carries. So obviously it carries mines, and it says you can deploy them to get people off your butt. So if someone's trailing you, you can just dump some mines, and that will get. No, I should say it would help get rid of them or give you some space so you can get away. It's not meant really to destroy capital vessels. It will annoy them, kind of like if you're a Star Destroyer going through an asteroid field. The smaller asteroids are really going to tickle you. They're not going to do much damage to your shields. But smaller ships, it will definitely hurt you. So I would assume anything from a constellation size lower, you need to be very careful with these, especially. You can disarm, you can hack them, you can destroy them by other means. So, like any other thing, kind of, so you can have your own EOD squadron. But, like, the one thing that is interesting is the fact that it says it uses drones. So, that's what Alpha and I were discussing last time, since we talked about drones. I wonder if you can use the drones for different functions then, if you're going to have, if you, I forgot. Hey, we got DC'd, sorry.
Yeah, just it's good. We'll use the footage that we do have. No reason to kick that all off. This is just a podcast. We're trying to spice things up. Like we said, change the format a little bit. We did go to Arena Commander to try and get some background footage, but idling is not ideal inside of Arena Commander.
Yeah.
But
So one thing with drones is that you should be able to use them for any function you want, really, once you're actually controlling them. That was one thing people had a question about, like when the Reclaimer came out and they said it had drones, and then people asked about the Vulcan having drones. They said, could these drones salvage or can they mine? What's the role? And they said technically you can put salvaging drones on them. So if, say, in the future you can buy drones to replace drones that you have, then what is stopping a person from putting, maybe rearming or refueling drones on this thing so that it actually can help others instead of just deploying mines? I wonder if that would be possible.
I don't see why not.
That's exactly what I was going with, or what I was really curious about, and I think we were talking about this a few days prior. And you're exactly right. I think it has mentioned that drone drain are swappable, so that leads to both situations. You can turn this traditional, mine layer, mine sweeper into an actual, capital support logistical combat vessel. Like I said, with the arm and the armament, it does have the armor and armament. But on the flip side, for the little the sneaky side, when you talk about naval history, maritime history, there's a term called junk. Generally, it refers to ships of Asian design with the Latin sails. But what's unique about those junks and also spy trawlers is on the outside, it just looks like a fishing boat or an old junk, but on the inside, it has sophisticated equipment. And so you take that approach and you apply it to this. You can take an old reclaimer or even a Vulcan. Once those have drones, who's to stop you from utilizing
The
more
most
weaponized
top
style
tier
drones?
technology. Yeah.
Exactly. You sneak in like, oh, it's just a Vulcan. He's refueling somebody. It's a fuel rat. Let him go. Little do you know, he's packing some combat drones. He's trying to sneak in behind your convoy. So it opens up a wide breadth of opportunity.
Yep, exactly. I love it.
Well, Seer kind of opened the door to it already, but the second question on it was the multi-role use of it. We do know it has in the 60s SCU. I know you pulled up the numbers, but
64, I believe.
64. So with that, though, I mean, we can kind of see the design of it. The 40-something that the Hammerhead has and has a lift capable of carrying a rover? Can it carry a rover, or is it a Cyclone? I can't remember on the Hammerhead.
I'm not sure.
I know it can carry one of the ground vehicles, but it's not very big. But anyways, essentially on here, do you think that this is going to be truly a boat? I mean, we don't have any information about it going planet side yet. I did see some really big VTOLs in the back.
Yes, it is confirmed that there are VTOL. I'm gonna scour through this post of information I have and talk about it as you continue digressing. So continue talking. I'll chime in when I have the info.
Sure, sure. So the other thing that was weird from a design is it's got those huge VTOLs in the back, but in the front, I didn't. Which I mean, I guess maybe I haven't seen all of the view of the ship yet, but I didn't see any kind of major VTOL pieces in the front, unless if it's just going to be like, some kind of a retro thruster look.
Well,
It'll probably be a retro thruster, but also maybe the center of gravity is right where the thrusters are, because it looks like the meat and potatoes of the ship is around where the thrusters are. So
Mm-hmm.
if it is, then maybe it doesn't need that much major thrust in the front.
Fair
Maybe it's
enough.
a lot lighter in the front. The front. Can't talk today.
there's also that image floating around, I do believe, and I think we remarked it looked kind of similar to Hammerhead footage of it looked like some of these Nautilus going dirt side, on the planet side,
Mm-hmm.
and either dropping off equipment or troops, or even just resupplying before they take back off. And while he's looking at more information, talking about the many uses for this, we're talking about advocacy use and government use and blue for use. One of the things I want to cover is I really think this is going to lend itself more towards frontier style play. And what I mean by that is the people who are willing to, after they've gone out and explored, let's say they find that nice juicy rock and they want to start mining. Well, it can be hard to patrol your own stuff, and that's why I mentioned these drones, particularly not just the explosive drones or the seeker drone. The explosive mines and the seeker mines. I want to come back to that. But you also have the weapons platforms, so it becomes a massive force multiplier. And when you start speaking about, if you're familiar with the acronym, OKOKA or things of that nature, and the way that terrain works with strategic mindset, it's all about avenues of approach and introducing obstacles to either slow down your enemy or to force them to take a path that you want them to. So if
Yep.
you can't patrol all the way around this juicy mining rock, you might as well mine, a good 75% of it in that one little corridor. That's for you to fly in and out of. You can have one fighter covering that one corridor, and that allows a small mom and pop group to really start conducting successful mining operations.
You create a choke point.
Well, not only that, but drones and mines don't get tired. They don't turn offline. They don't, get hungry.
Well, actually,
Or
that's
unionize.
Yeah.
unionize. Well, to counter that, actually, I did see something about how the mines act just like ships, which they need to be maintained. They need to be refueled. If I could find it, it would be nice. I'm scrolling up and down. It's quite annoying.
Well, that
Yes,
it goes.
mines. Here
Oh,
it
go ahead.
is. It says mines are effectively ships as far as fuel maintenance upgrades are concerned.
And Alpha
So,
even mentioned on that. He says, you're going to see Vulcans out there working on or maintaining or deactivating, possibly. We don't have
yep,
confirmation of that, but reason to believe that, if there's any kind of maintenance involved, a Vulcan should be part of the, full
That's also a
circle.
job of the current day. You asked me earlier. It kind of circles back to what the minesweeper does. So we use that term kind of ambiguously. I know there's some talk about, well, is it a mine layer, a minesweeper? Oftentimes, it can wear both hats. And another thing to do, again, because of that wooden pole, they're also able to service these mines as well. So sometimes you'll be able to, put divers in the water to go service them. But sometimes if it's more of a surface style mine, or even just you look at the Coast Guard, the civilian side, monitoring these buoys that are supposed to be sitting in a certain place, like these buoy tenders. And you will have a vessel that can actually, just as you mentioned, these weapon platforms are going to run dry. They're going to need to be recharged, refueled. Looking at these mines, there's also the seeker mines. Let's say it flies by, it picks up a good target. Let's say they're flying an eclipse or something like that. They go dark, it loses its target, and so it stops its propulsion. It likely won't return back to its point of origin. So you may have to go out there, man, even just in an SRV, kind of grab it and tow it back in place, or you can actually bring back out your Nautilus and pick it up and reintroduce it in that place. So there's lots of different options. It seems like it's really creating a whole little industry.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it just opens up to a whole lot of these things that we're waiting to come online, and we are still waiting for them to come online, but now there is a mechanic of which for, oh, okay, when are the Vulcans going to be able to interact with this, or mines, or XYZ? it it is. It's a whole new, I won't say a whole new mechanic, but it's definitely a whole range of
They're
opportunity.
pushing for drones now.
Yeah.
Like, so this was my whole thing. If this thing is flight ready, then things we start needing to seeing is functionality. I'm not gonna cry, complain, or anything if it's not. But for drones are the way of the future.
Sadly, this is where the recording audio cut out during the live broadcast that we were doing. We went on to talk about the future of info coming. Today is August 25th, post editing, and we're currently receiving concierge information. Truly no for more than what we already received on August 24th during the event announcement. To further on, I am new to podcasting. I hope that the content that we're trying to bring here is relevant and interesting to other listeners. If you have any topics you'd like to hear from SeerThe6th or AlphaKilo5, I would like to receive those. I want to thank you for listening in today for the Nation Radio podcast. I will strive to do better in the future and for these recordings. I want to thank both of the guest and co-hosts that have been contributing to the last two podcasts. They have been a huge influence into our community, and we appreciate their perspective. Thank you for choosing Badlands Nation.